Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this edition of MacStadium's Coffee Chat, Elevating Cloud Security, Addressing Challenges in a Mac Cloud Environment. With us today, we have MacStadium CISO, Kevin Beebe, and COO, Paul Benatti. Kevin, so MacStadium recently became a member of the Cloud Security Alliance.
We
Can you tell
did.
us a little bit about who is the CSA and why membership is important?
Yeah, absolutely. The Cloud Security Alliance is an organization that's been around for about 15 years now. And industry leading practitioners, service providers are members of this organization who collaborate on cloud security best practices across our industry and promote and raise awareness for organizations that are migrating to the cloud or maturing their level of security within the cloud environment. The organization has over 30 active working groups that research evolving cloud security topics. Some of those are things like artificial intelligence, DevSecOps, and emerging threats and vulnerabilities. So CSA gives us the opportunity to join those working groups, have a voice in collaborating with other peers in our industry, and again, help promote best practices for all organizations, regardless of size. They also have defined CCSK and CCAK, that's Certificate of Cloud Security Knowledge and Certificate of Cloud Auditing Knowledge. Those are two certifications that are recognized as the industry standard of expertise in cloud security. So for our staff, it helps us to elevate our expertise in those areas. And then they have numerous opportunities to collaborate with our industry peers. They've got chapter events, forums, webinars, annual conferences that, again, all help us to keep these topics top of mind. And obviously, security is ever evolving. So that can be a challenge for us.
Yes, excellent. Well, it looks like from this slide, they do a lot of research trying to help us stay on top of some of those situations. So it's great to hear that we are part of this important organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And our customers rely on us more than just providing infrastructure. It's the expertise that we offer to them. So as we can stay abreast of like DevSecOps best practices, and we can share those with our customers, we can provide more value to them.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know that in addition to joining the CSA, that MacStadium has also recently achieved Cloud Security Alliance's Star Level 1 certification. Can you tell
Absolutely.
us a little bit about that program and why it's relevant?
Yeah, sure. So, we've maintained SOC 2 Type 2 and ISO 27001 compliance since we built our security program about 8 years ago. But the STAR certification is cloud security specific controls. So the CSA has defined a set of 261 cloud security controls across 17 specific security domains. So where SOC and ISO are both security compliance standards, they're more generic, where the STAR certification program is specific to cloud security. So basically starts with completing a CAIQ. That's an acronym, CAIQ. Stands for Consensus Assessments Initiative Questionnaire. It's basically a standardized security questionnaire that's been used by our clients for over 5 years. So they submit that to us to assess security controls and a level of risk within our environment. So MacStadium has completed that assessment of those 261 controls and attested that those are operating effectively in our environment. So that's the first part of STAR Level 1. It also incorporates your shared responsibility model. So in cloud security, we have to collaborate not only with our customers, but with some other third-party vendors that are involved in providing the solution. So the cake goes into detail about how exactly do we collaborate on these security initiatives. What is the customer's responsibility? What is MacStadium's responsibility? And then again, third parties like storage vendors, data center providers, how do we all collaborate to maintain a secure environment for our customers? And then finally, there's a trusted cloud provider certification to demonstrate a service provider's ongoing commitment to promoting cloud security. So, as our staff are certified with CCSK and CCAK certifications, it allows us to go out and promote through what we call community service at different events. It's holding, blogs and webinars to help promote those cloud security best practices.
Excellent.
And I might even just interject on the third party concept, right? We've got a long-standing tradition of leveraging, excellence in our third parties. An example of that is the data centers, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But these parties that we work with and collaborate with, fundamentally, they have to have the right capabilities in place for us to continue to build off of those and with those to offer and even secure the notion of a STAR Level 1 certification. So it's ultimately very important to how we do business.
Absolutely.
So with that said, is CSA membership just for cloud and SaaS providers?
It is not. As we showed in the graphic earlier, there's over 160,000 individual members of CSA, over 500 corporate member organizations. So not just cloud service providers, but any practitioner of cloud security in their own private environment. There's over 12,000 contributing research volunteers, so anyone can get involved in collaborating on cloud security best practices. So we invite everyone to check out CSA and join at some level of membership. So you can go online to cloudsecurityalliance.org/membership, and you can see all the membership opportunities available to you there.
So I kind of want to pull it over to a hot topic around the Mac cloud environment. What are some of top of mind challenges that organizations face when deploying a Mac cloud environment?
So the first one's going to sound rather strange, right? No one thinks about physical access controls when you're talking about cloud security, but it's definitely relevant in a Mac cloud environment. It's some of the biggest challenges that we've faced over the years in providing secure Mac clouds, because with the Mac, you're talking about a physical asset, right? So with Apple's EULA, every customer, every user has to have a dedicated host environment. And we're talking about desktop Macs, right? So it's not server infrastructure with standard virtualization and management capabilities that are built in. So over the years, as we've scaled these Mac environments, typically it required engineers or support technicians to go physically lay hands on customer hosts within the data center. Well, every time you do that, there's physical access to the data that resides on that host. So if we have to pull a Mac from a rack, and whether it's connecting it to a crash card or taking it over to image it, you have to track the disposition of that asset to secure the data that is hosted upon it. So we've done a ton of work to try and eliminate that there's no need for an engineer to physically touch that machine. So there's all kinds of capabilities, and I'll invite Paul to jump in and talk about some of those initiatives where we've tried to automate all those manual activities and provide a higher level of security to our customers.
Yeah, so let's start with the data center itself before we jump into some of the specifics around the servers, the consumer grade devices Kevin just talked about. From a data center perspective, right? Again, the physical security starts from you're entering the premises in the first place, and we make sure that our data center providers, because we colo through providers, we make sure that they reach these levels of security compliance. So Kevin talked about ISO 27001, SOC 1 and 2 type 1 and type 2, all that great stuff. And it really starts with them and as a partnership. And so we take a lot of time to ensure that those partners are continuing that same journey as new needs arise and the ever evolving certifications and the compliance that you need, that they're keeping those controls in place. And again, that allows us to build off of those controls and continue to move forward. So it's essential that we're dealing with quality colo providers, and we certainly do. It's everything from again, being able to get to the parking lot, entering the main lobby, being able to get past the main lobby, biometrics to get to the raised floor and various other spots throughout the data centers. And so that's essential. We also staff 24/7 at all of our data centers, which is a little bit unusual for the industry. But when you're talking about a consumer grade device and the needs that come with that, we've traditionally had to staff in order to meet the needs of our customers, not only the needs that they have from imaging and that nature, but also just the expectation of response times, right? Because when they're not commercial grade devices, you don't have the ability to get onto a management network necessarily and access them from behind the scenes and do configuration items, what have you.
Yeah,
so
Paul.
Having our staff on the premises has been a hallmark for us. You were going to say, Kevin?
Yeah, just to chime in there, just to kind of paint the picture, going back 5 years ago, we had customers specifically in financial services industries that were, they're building and testing banking applications on our infrastructure, and their requirements were very strict physically within the data center. They said, okay, we've got to have a rack with locked doors. We have to have an electronic lock so we can log every time someone physically opens that rack and touches any of the infrastructure. And we want a camera in that rack to record all of that activity. And so, those were the kind of things early on that we had to facilitate to make our customers comfortable. Now we've kind of evolved that. Paul talked more about some of the automation capabilities that those same customers, still customers today, have foregone those physical security requirements because we've made them comfortable that we log all the activity against their devices, and there's no need to physically touch them anymore.
Yep. Again, just to continue to expand upon that, they still have the same requirements, but what we've done is, instead of having to isolate them in their own cabinets, the general population of what we do for every customer facilitates that same level of security and that same level of tracking. And so after they've audited us, they've been to all of our data centers and looked at the facilities and understand all of our controls. And it's really a testament to Kevin and his team and the joint relationship with operations that allows us to exceed those expectations at a larger scale than just a cabinet or two. So why don't we talk a little bit about what we're doing for the next evolution at MacStadium around the consumer grade device that we call the Mac Mini or the MacStudio, or even some of the future devices coming from Apple. we've spent some time working on a next generation racking system, and that encompasses everything that goes into the entire rack, including the minis and how they're held within the rack. And we also leverage a Apple-centric KVM system. For those not familiar with KVM, the acronym is Keyboard Video Mouse. Essentially, it allows anybody that has access to the KVM, and we'll talk about the security controls around the actual device, but the KVM device allows you to work with the specific computer as if you were in front of that computer, as like a laptop, or you were at home with your keyboard, your mouse, and your video attached to it. And that opens up an array of possibilities for us at MacStadium to help our customers, as well as for our customers in the future to take advantage of those features, right? So today, when we talked about this before, we staff 24/7. That's quite a number of people per data center. But the goodness of 24/7 for our customers is we're here, we're around, and if something, one, goes bump in the night, or two, they have, 2 a.m. in Atlanta time, one of their servers needs to be reimaged and they really want it done, we're there so we can do it. Sometimes we have somebody that's working on the floor for another customer, and so when that request comes in, there's a period of time where you can't get to it. Well, at any given moment, since we have 4 data centers, there's somebody on the floor somewhere that's probably free. Unfortunately, they're physically not located where the server is. And up until now, with this new racking system and this Apple-centric KVM that's attached to it, they could not help the customer because they were physically not there. But now they can simulate physically being there. The only thing they can't actually do is touch the computer itself. But what they can do is everything you could do, including depressing the power button on the device in order to enter special modes for re-imaging or what have you. And so if we could go to the next slide. Let's see. Oh, we are. One more slide. Sorry. Yeah. So what we've done here is, and this is just sort of a zoom into the devices that are in there. You'll see this is an example of Mac Mini, but we have this same setup working for studios now. What you'll see is the Mini is being housed in a holder, for lack of something to call it, and on the back end of it, you'll see that silicon board, and that board is really a special. It's a Raspberry Pi that everybody knows and loves out in the industry, and then we have our own special software, and we're developing a hat to actually take on some of the software to make it even faster. The software allows us to adhere to LDAP and the SSO that is in place for our customers to enter into our customer portal, where they can administer their people that are coming in, as well as that's the exact same technology we use for our Orca software that allows them to enter Orca. That exact same setup is what the Pis allow. And so we can elevate that up to our customers in the future so that they have access to their machines individually. Every one of our devices, our Mac devices, has one of those KVM systems. So it's a one-to-one mechanism. There is no multi-tenant concept, because in the Apple EULA that Kevin talked about, when a customer uses one of these computers, it is theirs and only theirs. It's much different than the traditional hyperscaler that can allow customers to enter and ebb and flow through compute power that they have on the floor, right? It's much different in a Mac environment. And so we've hooked up to this special software. That software allows us and our customers to do a whole bunch of things. At the very top, although you can't really see it, in the middle picture, you can just see it above the actual silicon device. There's a little box up there, and that's actually a servo. And that servo allows us to control the power button of the Mini itself or the Studio itself. And through that, we can send commands and we can elevate those commands up to the portal, which we have done for some commands. The easiest one, of course, is turn the power on and off for my Mini, right? So now the customer can do that. When the customer has that control, all of a sudden they can take advantage of certain things they couldn't before without us having to be on the hook to help them. A great example of that is File Vault. File Vault is a encryption scheme that Apple has developed and allows you to encrypt the SSD within the Mini itself. That's a great thing, high security, all that good stuff. But the problem is, if the computer is rebooted or shut down and then turned on later, you need to be in front of that computer with a keyboard and mouse attached to it in order to allow Apple's Mac OS to boot up, right? You couldn't do that before. So what would happen is a customer would put File Vault on, and eventually that system would be reset, and then they have to call us to go out there and make that available to them. We would have to share credentials, so they would have to provide us a password and a user ID. None of that has to happen anymore because the customer can do all of that because of what we're allowing them to do in the future through this KVM device. So we're taking that security to the next level, and we're really excited about it. It also allows us to service our customers from anywhere in the world, which means they get better speed to helping them and just a better overall service and support product.
Yeah, in security, it's a common joke, but people are the biggest risk, right? And what they anyone can potentially maliciously do either on purpose or by accident. So, again, the KVM capability gives us the opportunity to automate all those interactions. So there's no more manual trust or manual interaction that our customers have to question the security of that. So tasks like data sanitization, we used to have to go grab that machine and take it out and, someone put it through a sanitization process before it was recommissioned for another user. Now that's completely automated by the system. When a customer cancels service, a script is executed, the data is sanitized, the new operating system can be installed, and no one ever touched the machine. So
right, and all of those operations are auditable, right? They're all logged. We know it happened. We know when it happened, who asked the command to go, all that good stuff. So there's complete auditability behind it. And for us, it's sort of a dream on the operations side, because today that computer might be for Kevin and his needs, and tomorrow he might say, no, I don't need that particular computer. So now that computer goes back into an ability for someone else to leverage in the future, but it gets wiped. It's well understood. It's auditable. And then when somebody comes and asks for it, we don't have to go re-image it. Maybe it was bare metal for Kevin, but for you, Holly, you wanted Orca on it. And so the script runs and sets it up for Orca and hands it over within, easily less than 60 minutes.
Amazing.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely impressive.
Yeah, it's really good. And, from our perspective, we want to make sure we can provide our customers with just world-class service for all of our products. And this takes us to another level to be able to accomplish that.
And is that specific to MacStadium? This technology is?
Yes. So this work that we're talking about here is proprietary to MacStadium. We're using, I would say, like the Raspberry Pi is a capability that the world has, but the special sauce is our expertise into both hardware and software that facilitates some of these key Apple-centric, right, needs that you just can't get anywhere else.
I kind of want to switch it over a little bit back. You mentioned encryption earlier, so I want to pull it back to little data privacy and encryption. There's so many different aspects to data encryption, both in transit and at rest. How do you ensure that customer environment data is covered by end-to-end encryption?
So yeah, that's a big one. I think it starts with a data mapping exercise. I mean, before we can protect something, we need to know what types of data exist in these different systems. There's so many API integrations between platforms and transfer of data. Again, we're looking for that end-to-end encryption in transit, at rest, everywhere that it exists. So, organizations start by mapping that out. What are all the different platforms? We're not just talking within a private cloud environment, but within, external SaaS applications that integrate inside the environment. So, as you said, there's many different layers there. We kind of start on the device, as Paul said. Customers now have the ability to enable File Vault to control the encryption of their environment data as it exists on our host infrastructure. And MacStadium has no access to that. We don't have access to the encryption keys, and that helps our customers feel secure. On our network storage arrays, same thing. We encrypt data in transit and at rest. MacStadium employees do not have access to the encryption keys there as well. So again, it kind of goes along with zero trust, least privilege concepts that our customers are trying to implement for their infrastructure. On the communication side, we provide a firewall appliance that the customer fully controls, so they can set whatever VPN encryption they need for external communications with other systems. And then obviously controlling application database encryption in their environment. Customers, again, this is dedicated private cloud. They have full control over their infrastructure and can maintain encryption at every level there. But then again,
I think a lot of,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, I think a lot of customers are in a sense amazed or just happy with the fact that when we provide them a product, a bare metal device or an Orca capability, that they're in control, right? If they set up File Vault, if they we hand over an image, a standard image with a randomized password to start with for the administrator of that device, they have every ability to change that, right? And we tell them to change it. So essentially, we have no ability whatsoever to access those machines. And so when they request help, we're often working with them to help them figure out how to leverage their credentials. But if their credentials are lost, then we have to take other routes that are part of the whole world around how did they set up that security and where do they keep their passwords or what have you. Because again, those are the things that take place that are normal, everyday administrative things as an IT shop in anybody's, hopefully, secure data centers. We provide that exact same capability to them as if it was their data center.
Yeah, and I did want to touch, I mentioned zero trust and least privilege. Every organization is on this journey to get to zero trust. It's not, something that everyone is already achieved, but again, we're trying to enable our customers to have more control over their environment. So MacStadium recently migrated our identity services engine for all of our platforms. We moved that to AWS Cognito, which now gives our customers the ability to integrate their own SAML, SSO, MFA platforms that they're comfortable administrating. So they've got full control of access to their environment and the data within their environment. And then we've enabled more granular role-based access controls within the MacStadium platform, so we can enhance the least privilege capabilities that our customers are trying to facilitate. And then finally, as Paul mentioned earlier, everything revolves around very detailed auditing and alerting of all the activity that goes on, whether it's in the firewall, on the host, in our customer portal, and exposing that to our customers so they have complete visibility.
Excellent. Yes. Those are very hot topics, talking about data encryption, data privacy, zero trust. And we see these stories popping up in the news every day, where there's been a data breach. How do we ensure that data is protected? How can our customers ensure that their data is protected when it goes outside of their network?
Yeah, well, as you said, every week, every month now, you hear even Fortune 100 companies are suffering data breaches, and more often those are from third-party SaaS applications that they use. So it's one thing to secure your own infrastructure, but when you've got all these cloud applications that you use and organizations, that's a growing list. More and more applications are no longer hosted internally, but are used by third-party SaaS products. So we have to secure those as well, and that represents a big risk. So, having a comprehensive third-party vendor risk analysis program where you're looking at all of the controls that you maintain internally and making sure that those third-party vendors adhere to those same controls. So MacStadium, as part of our SOC 2 audit, we have a list of sub-processor vendors that are involved in helping to support the services. So companies like Salesforce, Jira, these are all cloud applications that we use to support our own customers. And we have a responsibility to make sure that those providers have the same level of controls that we commit to having to our customers. So that vendor risk analysis process can be difficult because it's not only third party now, it's fourth party. So, Salesforce has a set of vendors that they utilize. And so those security control commitments are extending further into the supply chain. But we have to address those risks. And then finally, companies are implementing more comprehensive data loss prevention programs to detect, even for authorized access. You have employees with access to Salesforce. There's customers PII in Salesforce. And so we still need to monitor when data is exported to an endpoint and track the disposition of that data and make sure that it's protected throughout its life cycle until it goes to destruction. So again, that's a difficult, it's a comprehensive process, and many companies are on this journey to mature their third-party vendor risk program.
And I would also mention, and Kevin, please chime in here, but
yeah,
we have a shared responsibility model, so that between us and our customers, right? And so there's all the work we do, right, to make sure that we're adhering to or exceeding these certification requirements and working with third parties and ourselves hardening our capabilities. But frankly, all that's for naught if we don't outline specifically those things that we are doing versus those things that our customers need to do in order to maintain that capability of securing everything. And so we're very good at providing that information and laying that groundwork so that both parties, ourselves and our customers, understand that. An example of that is we set up firewalls for our customers so that they have an ingress egress capability into their systems, their environments. But at the end of the day, once we hand over that firewall, the care and feeding of that firewall is part of the shared responsibility for the customer. Now, we can help them, absolutely, and we're here to help them, but they need to request that help, right? Because as far as we're concerned, it's now theirs, and we should not be accessing it, and only if invited, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same for their OS that's on their compute. It's the same concept, right? If there are patches that come out, again, we can help, but it is their responsibility after we hand it over initially. And so if they invite us to help, we will do what we can to help.
Yeah, so you can view those shared responsibilities again in our cake documentation. So you can download a copy of that and see that detail. It's also in our SOC 2 Type 2 report. There's a section called complementary end user controls that our customers are responsible for maintaining, and you can review those there as well.
Excellent. And I'm assuming all of these can be found in our new MacStadium Trust Center.
They
that we
can,
just
yeah.
launched. Excellent. So rolling right around to that. So we did just recently launch the MacStadium Trust Center, and I would like to have Kevin tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very excited to launch the Trust Center. We started putting customers and prospects through this experience on April 1st. So getting some very positive feedback on the interaction, where previously there's a lot of manual engagement via email back and forth to facilitate what our customers need to complete their third-party vendor risk analysis. Now we've tried to put all of that right at their fingertips. So get rid of that manual interaction, just expose all the information they need in one place. And excited to show that here. So if users go to trust.macstadium.com, they'll be taken to this site. There's a lot of public information that you don't need to register for access. I'll kind of show you the difference here in a minute. But there is the request access to any sensitive information. So if you're looking for a copy of our SOC 2 Type 2 report or a latest pen test, maybe policy documentation, you will need to register for access. When you do that, there's a click-through non-disclosure agreement. It takes just a minute to execute that, and you should have access to the private sections of the Trust Center within minutes. So once you're in the portal, you'll see all of our compliance certifications that MacStadium has achieved over the last 8 years. We're very proud of all of the certifications that you see here. You'll see a list of other companies that have used MacStadium and have built trust in our security and compliance program. We've got a documentation section here where, again, access to pen test reports, compliance reports. I'll expand this down. You'll see examples of policies that customers typically want to review before they build trust in MacStadium. And then you'll see the status of different controls that we have implemented. And you'll be able to click into each of these and read more detail about these controls and how we've implemented them. Here, risk profile, what level of access do we have to your data? What is the potential impact of that access? So you can view all that information by clicking into these modules. You'll see the self-assessment. So you've got the cake that I talked about earlier, so you can review in detail those security controls and the shared responsibility models. I'll kind of glaze through. There's some legal information that you have access to, different policies, and then security grades. So external third parties who have scanned MacStadium infrastructure and given us a security grade. So we're excited to publish those. If you do click the subscribe button, you'll be copied on any updates, relevant updates to our security and compliance program. And then here in the bottom, you have the ability to interact with us, contact support, or do things like if you've discovered a vulnerability in our website, in our applications, you can report that issue to us so that we can promptly address those issues. Then I'll kind of go back to the top here. Just in terms of a knowledge base, you can just pick any category. So let's say you're interested in what's MacStadium software development lifecycle. So you can pull up very detailed information about things like that. So the knowledge base is continually expanding as our customers interact. You can ask questions of our security program. We do add those questions to the knowledge base as we go along. So you can find all the latest relevant information here at your fingertips.
Wonderful. I appreciate you sharing that with us, Kevin. And I appreciate both of you joining us today, and Megan as well, for this dive into specific challenges for security that our customers face specific to a Mac cloud environment. So appreciate your time today. I appreciate our audience for joining us, and I wish you a great day.